wherever you may be. Welcome back for another edition of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. Join your host, Bill Alpstead, and co-host, sports writer and football analyst Keith Myers as we talk Seahawks football. Hey, Seahawk fans. Welcome back to another edition of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alpstead, sitting down, as always, with co-host Keith Myers. Welcome into the show, Keith.
Yeah, I've got a fun show this for today. We're going to kind of look at, like yesterday was super positive. We did all of the, awards for mid-season. And today we're going to kind of look at the other end of the spectrum. We're going to look at guys that need to step up, areas that need to improve as this team, goes down the stretch towards a playoff spot.
Yeah, in a constructive criticism type mode. I mean, we're not going to just rank on guys. In fact, as I was putting together this list today, prepping for the show, I was kind of amazed at how difficult it was to kind of critique things, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I thought that was the most challenging aspect of this exercise, and really don't have a whole lot. Now, when it comes to the offense, it's more of a nitpicking situation, if you will. And then on the defensive side, there's a couple of things, but most of it is the same, especially after the last 4 weeks, not counting the last game. We kind of fell off a little bit on the defensive side, but overall it's improved. So
did you see the DK Metcalf tweets about the field?
Yeah, and among others, Bruce Irvin also commented.
That's true.
And so, it's not a good look for the NFL. I'm sure that Tampa won, so you're not hearing a lot out of their camp, but I'm sure that they feel the same way. They, all things being equal, though, Tampa showed up and was able to kind of overcome those challenges. I thought the player with the largest challenge to me was Ken Walker. Just really couldn't get his feet in this game, didn't really push piles forward, had a few slips where he fell down early and so forth. So I don't know. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Other than withhold your games from Europe. And it's funny because I mentioned this comment to another person before the game. I think it was Saturday night, where I said, I wonder what the field's gonna be like. Because I know that it was going to be natural grass, but I just didn't know what condition it would be in based on current level of play over there on those fields. I didn't know exactly where they were at in their seasons and so forth. I know that it rained earlier in the week.
Decent. I expected it to be decent because Bayern Munich plays there, and that's a Bundesliga team. It's the highest level of German soccer. They're one of the better teams. They play, and I know they're on break right now because everyone is they're sending players to World Cup teams and all of that. But they were playing a couple of weeks ago. There's no reason for this field to be in rough shape, and it clearly was. I mean, the grass was coming up. The players needed longer cleats. They had to go through and take their cleats out and screw in some longer ones, which I think they should have done pregame. But that's just me.
All right. One other bit of news in Seahawk land. Cornerback Trey Brown was activated off the IR list today to join the club. He'd spent the previous 3 weeks cleared to practice, and this was the last day. Yeah, tomorrow is the last day, I think, that he could have been activated onto the active roster or placed on IR for the remainder of the year. He was activated. Seahawks didn't need to make a corresponding move. They had another player that went on injured reserve last week, Gillespie. So Trey Brown's on the roster, Keith. Makes that cornerback room just that much more interesting.
It does, and it makes it better. Yeah, I mean, Trey Brown came out as a rookie. Took him a while to get on the field, and when he did, he looked good. He looked great. I know they've slow played getting him back because they haven't needed him, and they haven't had the roster spot just readily made for him. And also, I don't think they're going to have him play special teams right away while he gets that knee back a little bit. But he makes that it makes it hard because right now you've got a guy like Artie Burns, who's a veteran who played well in camp and was the presumed starter before he got hurt, sitting there and not playing. Now you add another player to the mix who's sitting so that Trey Brown can play.
Right.
That's a hard question. Maybe Michael Jackson will take some more plays off, or maybe they'll try and work in some more four corner sets and go with less with three safeties and let Jones have fewer snaps. But overall, it's hard. It's a good problem to have when you have that many talented players just trying to get them on the field.
He is an outside corner, but I wouldn't mind seeing him in some slot time in this defense. Kobe Bryant, to me, after reviewing today's stats and so forth, seems to be the weakest link in that defense. Now, he's a great tackler, but his coverage grade is really not great, and I'll get into the details later. But Trey Brown probably needs some time to work into the defense, so I would imagine his snap count is going to be something like 5 to 7 snaps in the first game, 10 to 12 in the second game, and so on and so forth. And we'll see if he integrates or if he earns that extra time, depending on what happens down the stretch. First game up, Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr and company.
Actually, let's go ahead and start there, because you've got one of the things that I think this team needs to improve, right? We're talking about areas of improve, is getting off the field on third down. They're giving up some of those weird long 3rd and 10s. They're giving up too many of them. And I know that's kind of a Pete Carroll thing because they play a little softer, come up, make the tackle. And if somebody misses a tackle or whatnot, then the team gets the first down. But, it's also, one of the problems with if your slot corners or your linebackers, your safeties aren't covering well, those tend to get converted into first downs. Yes. And you're saying that statistically, it looks like Kobe Bryant's the weakest link.
Yeah. So when I went and did some work on that, he was one of the players that I said needed to step up on the defensive side of the ball, because his coverage grade. Let me see if I can find the notes on him. Sorry. I don't know where they went, but anyway, on the third down conversion rate percentage that you were talking about, the Seahawks are at 44.5% conversion allowed. That ranks 28th in the NFL. They also, in the red zone, is one of my other areas of improvement, currently allowing a 63 or 61.3 TD conversion rate, which ranks 23rd. Now, that kind of goes hand in hand as well. If you're going to allow teams to march down the field, get in your red zone, and you're allowing that sort of conversion rate, it's hard to get off the field, and you're giving up too many points. And right now, the Seahawks are still giving up points. It's been better in the last 4 weeks, but it hasn't been ideal, and I can't give them a complete pass on that. They've gotten a lot better, but they're still in these key areas need some improvement.
Yeah,
and I'll try to find that Kobe Bryant thing. Oh, here we go. Nickel coverage was one of the things that I wrote down. Kobe Bryant's has allowed 37 of 50 targets, fifth worst percentage in the NFL, with a coverage grade of 53.3 and a passer rating allowed of 111.3.
So 53.3 is average.
Yes, but it is the worst on the team.
True, but it means he's league average.
Correct. Which to me says that we could probably stand to improve that spot a little bit, considering the other areas that we have now. Believe it or not, Quandre Diggs is close to that this year as well, which makes that back end susceptible. And he's, one thing about Quandre Diggs too is he's not. They're not generating as many interceptions as they have, minus Tariq Woolen. If you take Tariq Woolen out of the equation at 5 interceptions, the team only has 2 interceptions so far this year, Keith.
Yeah, there's only 2 others other than Woolen. Yeah, it is interesting. Diggs did not play well the first few games. He really struggled, and he's played better during the stretch of games where the defense has been better. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with, Ryan Neal and him trusting Ryan Neal, where I don't think he trusted Josh Jones, but it can't just be explained by that because he was missing tackles and stuff like that. So I don't know what it was.
He's come off of a very major injury to his leg last year, and you got to trust that. And he had admitted in an interview in a press conference earlier after the first couple of games that he was still kind of he used the word trust. I've got to be able to trust my leg, and I think that's a thing that by now you'd think that if there wasn't any issues, he would have overcome that, and it wouldn't be a problem week in, week out. But if there's a little pain there, if there's a little nagging, if they need to clean up the knee a little bit, maybe you'll read about it in the off season. Then it's going to affect his ability to cut sharply, to break on balls, and his willingness to kind of put his head in there. And so, and I'm seeing a little bit of all of that.
So, I mean, the team doesn't have the depth to, do anything about it. And if this was an off-season areas to improve, safety is one of my concerns because I think that Jamal Adams is probably done in Seattle, and Ryan Neal's been great, but I think they need more than just those two guys because Jones looked great in camp and preseason, and then fell on his face once the game started counting. They can't afford to have Diggs not be good.
I'd be shocked this offseason if either in free agency or out of the draft, we don't pick up a really nice quality free safety. This defense needs it. You've got to have either a primary guy that's really knocking it out of the park or a really nice tandem that you can use for two high safety looks and so forth. And they just don't have that. I mean, I think Josh Jones is the listed backup free safety on this defense. And he's facing challenges as well as Joey Blount. Joey Blount's in there as a free safety as well, but he hasn't earned any snaps. So
no, he's a special teams guy.
So far,
a really good special teams guy, but he's a special teams guy.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Yeah, I don't know what they do with that. I just know that there's no fixing that other than guys playing better. And I think Quandre Diggs can play better because he has been better in the past. And it's just a matter of he needs to get comfortable, trust that leg, trust his teammates, and just play a little better.
Yeah.
I also love to see him catch the ball because he's had a couple of picks hit him in the hands and he dropped them.
Well, that's right. And so part of this show is kind of calling out players who needs to step up down the stretch. We got 7 games to go. We're in the playoff hunt. We're in first place in our division. If we want to get to the playoffs, we need to play at least as good as we've been playing. But if we want to do anything once we get there, we're going to need guys to step up and elevate their level of play. And one of the guys that you would point to is Quandre Diggs, not only because he's a great player, but he's a leader on this team.
Absolutely.
And so you got to call on a guy like Quandre to come in. Now he's got 46 tackles. He's got 1 forced fumble, but 0 interceptions. I think last year he had 5. And so you want a guy like that to be able to break on the ball, make plays. That's why he's back there. And if he's got good corners, which he does now, better corners than last year, he should have a little bit more freedom to make plays on the ball. And I'd like to see that.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have Tariq Woolen or anyone close to that level of play in the back there. So he should be able to, trust Woolen on one side, roll coverage towards the other, or come up and make plays if he needs to.
Mike Jackson's not bad in coverage, and he's one of the best tacklers on the team.
Absolutely.
And so Diggs got to be able to trust that. All right. What is another area of improvement that you'd like to see? Let's stick on the defensive side, Keith.
So the next person that kind of came to mind, or if there's a replacement possible, is, the Cody Barton spot. Barton played more in this last game because Tampa was running the ball a lot. So they went away from their multiple defensive back looks and brought Barton in, and yet they still got ran over. And he just seems to be a step late. He'll miss a tackle here or there in each game. And his strength is supposed to be in coverage, and he's been okay. He's been, good in coverage. Against the run, he's just not it.
Mm-hmm.
And the team got better as he played less.
Yeah.
And now I think they need more from that spot. People are going to look at what Tampa did and go, okay, so if we want to, there's a way to run on Seattle. And we've got to have that middle linebacker be able to make plays. It can't be all on Jordan Brooks. And it's a tall order. Is there anyone else on the roster who could come in and take that spot?
Currently, the backup is Nick Bellore. So no, there is not. So
Tanner Muse. Again, no.
Here's the deal. So a couple of things on Cody Barton. In this last game, Cody Barton stepped up, played a lot more snaps. I think he played like 60 snaps out of 72 on the defense. He had been playing in the 30 to 40 snap range. The other thing is that the team decided to bring Miles Adams onto the roster and activate him for this game and sit Brian Monet a healthy scratch. And Brian Monet is a much better run defender. Tampa was the worst running team in the NFL coming into this game, but they ran 165 yards against our defense. And that is part of the exposure issue with a guy like Cody Barton. Cody's asked to make a lot of tackles behind the line of scrimmage. And one of my big pet peeves in this defense is the missed tackles. Seattle has missed 30 tackles and has the third worst tackling grade in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of missed tackles by a lot of them by Barton, Diggs, Josh Jones.
And I'm gonna put Jordan Brooks in this conversation.
Okay.
And I know that, he's been playing well, leads the NFL in combined tackles at 104, 74 solo, but he's only got one tackle for loss. No pressures, no sacks, no nothing close to the line of scrimmage. And to me, that's a problem.
Yeah, a lot of his tackles are coming 5-6 yards beyond the line of scrimmage.
No, there's no question his athleticism, his
getting up into the hole and making the play, after a 1 yard gain.
And to me, that also points to the idea that maybe our defending the run nose tackles could use an upgrade in the offseason because we're just not getting it done. We have been in the last couple of weeks, but those teams, we haven't been run heavy teams. They've thrown a lot of passes. And so I don't know what the answer is, but I need Jordan Brooks to step up. I need Jordan Brooks to start making some tackles for loss. I need him to generate some turnovers. He's a great tackler most of the time. He's been out of position a couple times. I've seen him juked a few times. That's going to happen. But yeah, Cody Barton, he wasn't on my list. And the reason for that was I've kind of given up on Cody Barton, to be completely honest.
But then you have a spot on your defense that you have no expectation for.
It's the weakest link. There's no question.
What do they do?
There's you got to sub. You have to play a safety. You have to play dime coverage and bring a second safety up to the line of scrimmage in order to take care of those things.
But that extra safety is Josh Jones, who can't tackle.
Yeah, he throws his body out and doesn't wrap up.
Yeah, and misses, and he has a lot of missed tackles.
Yeah. So if there were issues coming into this season with General Manager John Schneider, those two areas would be the areas I would point to that didn't get solved. Cody Barton's spot at the second middle linebacker spot, as well as an upgrade at the safety position. I knew that Adams wasn't going to make it through this season. It's just one of those things, he tries hard. I'm not going to tear Jamal Adams down for being hurt because those things just happen. But the team wasn't prepared for when it would happen. And
they thought they had.
That's hard.
With the Josh Jones signing.
Ryan Neal's there, but nonetheless, that's one of our weakest spots right now.
Yeah, and it is. It's a weak spot, and it's a weak spot because Adams got hurt and he's done for the year during the first quarter of the first game, and that hurts. The idea that he wouldn't stay healthy all season, that's kind of a given his play style and that kind of stuff. But you expect him to give you, 6-8 games early, then he gets hurt, misses a couple of weeks, comes back, plays a few more weeks, then maybe gets hurt again. You don't expect to get him for a quarter of one game, and that's nothing. And they did bring in Josh Jones, who was a former second-round pick, a guy with athleticism and that kind of stuff. And he just decided he didn't want to tackle. And after looking good in the preseason, he fell on his face once the season started. Luckily, Ryan Neal has been there to kind of bail him out. But the team was, when you're 3 deep at strong safety and your third string ends up playing as well as Ryan Neal has, I'm not going to throw on John Snyder that much, but given he was 3 deep at strong safety, with starter caliber guys, he thought. And so, Jones didn't work out. Adams got hurt early.
It does happen. It does happen. So the last thing on the defense, and we'll just finish up with the defense. We'll go to the offense. The last thing with the defense for me was creating pressures and sacks outside of Nwasu. Nwasu's got 7 sacks. He's got a ton of pressures, like 30 pressures on the year. And then there's Jefferson at 3 sacks, Taylor at 3 sacks, and anybody else is less than 2 or less.
Yeah,
and
Taylor's been interesting in that when he gets pressure, he seems to get home and get the sack, but he is not getting pressure.
Yeah, so far he's got 14 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hits, and 3 sacks. Yeah, and really no pressures.
Yeah, last year his pressure percentage was really high. Now he wasn't getting double teamed,
and that's why we were so high on him coming into the season.
Yeah, his pressure percentage was really high, and I know this year with the conversion from end to linebacker, and they spent all training camp and everything trying to work on his run defense and coverage and his ability to do a 3-4 outside linebacker things. But a lot of those responsibilities have been taken away, given to Boye Mafe, given to Bruce Irvin. And his responsibility now is to get after the quarterback, and he needs to step up and be better at getting after the quarterback.
Yeah, I think that our ability to create pressure and sacks when it comes to the playoffs is 3 times as important as it is in the regular season, because that's when you're going to stop good quarterbacks, good offenses, taking the ball away, flipping the field, giving our offense more opportunities. It's guys like Darrell Taylor that make that happen. And we don't have anybody else. Jordan Brooks, with all his speed and athleticism, isn't being asked to get after the quarterback. Jamal Adams isn't blitzing from the safety position anymore. We don't have any other safety that's really getting after it now. Ryan Neal had a sack,
which is weird because he's so good in coverage against tight ends and running backs that you want him in coverage.
Yes.
Right. I mean, like when you're blitzing Jamal Adams, it's one because he's good at it and he's super fast and athletic and all of that. But the other part is he's not great in coverage.
Right.
So you're not losing much on the back end if you're blitzing Adams. Ryan Neal's kind of the opposite. Like he is great in coverage. So why, you don't really want to blitz him more than you have to because you want him back there.
Right. And that's the thing for me, if you're going to take Cody Barton off the field and you're going to have Ryan Neal on the field more, as well as a different,
it would be Josh Jones who'd be the one.
And Josh Jones. But what I'm saying is Josh Jones can come over and handle some of that coverage stuff. And you could send Neal more often in some exotic packages and so forth. I would look for that actually in the remaining games, so they can see if they can get a combination that works. Maybe something like that gives Darrell Taylor a free shot. And I'm just saying they've got to work on that. Nwasu is basically taking this thing on by himself, and he needs a little bit of help. He could even be more effective.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to see them, given, Ryan Neal's coverage ability, I'd love to see them, bring Kobe Bryant off the corner. Just, because corner blitz,
Joey
that kind
Blunt.
of stuff. Yeah.
Like Joey Blunt too.
Just, bring a guy in, be more creative. Get Jordan Brooks involved. Blitzing up the middle, knowing that you've got guys that can cover behind you. Yeah. And that's one of the things that Ryan Neal has added to this defense is the ability to just be good in coverage from the strong safety position. I mean, you look what Zach Ertz did in this last game against Arizona. Yeah, he had 5 receptions, but for very few yards. And he really, really was shut down. And that's Ryan Neal. He just played great in that game, and it showed. By
the way, Zach Ertz just went out for the season on the IR with an injury, so that sucks for him.
Cooper Kupp just went on injured reserve as well.
That has implications.
That has implications.
Seahawks game.
Yeah. It also has implications for the Rams because they really have one receiver right now, and that's Cooper Kupp. And without
I think
him,
they were done. They're done.
Yeah, they're done. They really are. I wonder, like, at what point do they, put a guy like Aaron Donald in bubble wrap and save him for next year?
And yeah, right. Okay, let's go to the offense. Then the offense is going to be hard.
Actually, it wasn't that hard for me.
Oh, come on now.
No, I mean, it wasn't, because the interior of the offensive line has been it hasn't been great.
There's a few things. But the offense is second in points scored right now in the NFL. We're moving the ball. We're efficient. We're making things happen. But yes, there are areas that we'd love to.
I love what the rookie tackles are doing. They're doing great. Damian Lewis has been up and down this year. Some games he's been really good. Other games
highest
he's been
grade
really
offensive
bad.
player on offense in Germany. Damian Lewis.
Yeah, I could see that. But Gabe Jackson was brought over from the Raiders to be an anchor on this offensive line to really improve what had been a terrible unit. And he did last year. He was the best offensive lineman on the team. He has not played well for most of this year. He's getting outplayed by Haynes. And honestly,
that's not surprising to me.
Yeah, honestly, with that, they're like splitting time. It's almost worth it to have Haynes in there more. I
agree.
You're trying to get, Jackson's the starter, and so you're trying to keep him engaged and all of that because he's the veteran, and you don't want him to just completely turn everything off because he gets benched. But he's being outplayed. So this time sharing thing has been fine. Just start pushing it more and more into the Phil Haynes direction. I think that could help. And they're not the center position. It is what it is. There's no backup. I mean, Fuller is awful. And Austin Blythe is good at the communication, line call, the mental part of being a center, which is the hardest part of being a center, but he isn't physical and he gets pushed around a little bit. He's not a great blocker. And that's what holds him back, but there's no one behind him. And so just overall, those 3 guys in the middle, they just need to get better, just play better, Damian Lewis, we saw when his rookie year, he has the potential to be outstanding. He hasn't really been outstanding. He's been really good at times. He's also been really bad at times. I want him to go back to outstanding, and I want him to be on his off days to be average to good, because he can be that. We've seen that from him. He just needs to find whatever it was that was working for him his rookie year. And if he does that, that makes Blythe better next to him. It makes life easier on your center, and get Haynes in there more on the other side. We might have a competent interior of the offensive line to go along with the 2 tackles that are just playing out of their minds.
Yeah, I agree. Jake Curhan's been a healthy scratch as well for several weeks in a row. And I get it, but at the same time, it's difficult because we could use him. I mean, one of the things that's really, really important, a pillar for Pete Carroll, is the run game, getting that run game going and so forth. Austin Blythe just doesn't cut it in the middle there. You'd mentioned
who are you going to play there?
Well, Austin Blythe is going to stay there. But what I'm saying is Austin Blythe has a 55.3 run blocking grade. You add that to the fact that Gabe Jackson's got a 49 grade on the other side. And then Lewis is kind of league average, if you will. And so all of that combined, even though our tackles are outperforming expectations, you're only as good as your weakest link sometimes. And we saw that stuffed up run game that we had just by having some really good tackles that Tampa had on the other side, be able to kind of eat space and create a push against our offensive line. And our offensive line wasn't getting a push. Our offensive line wasn't able to get out into the second level against Tampa. And so we weren't able to run at all.
Yeah, when Jake Curran came in at right tackle a few weeks ago, because of injury and whatnot, he struggled the first couple series, but once he kind of got into the swing of things, the team really ran the ball well to the right because he's a road grader. I like the idea of Jake Curran being the long-term right guard. I do. I think that he would be great there. And then what do you do with Phil Haynes? I mean, Phil Haynes has been
what do you do with Damian Lewis? You move him over to center?
I think one of those two guys, because both of those guys have taken snaps at center. Or
draft to center.
Yeah. I mean, either of those guys could become your center. Like Phil Haynes was kind of the backup center during camp when they didn't really have one because of injuries and whatnot. Damian Lewis actually played an NFL game at center his rookie year because everyone was hurt and they just called on him to move over and do it. And he did it. Pick a guy, make one of them your long-term center.
The idea
and train them.
And what you want to do and what we've always been told with the Seahawks is you want to put your best 5 guys out there and you just figure that out. And I think that we do have the best 5 guys, but it's close on a couple of players there. So and those players that are close are just middling. You know, and so it is kind of a hard situation.
I mean, it comes down with Blythe, like your best 5 guys. Well, your best is depending on how you judge it, right? In terms of physical ability as a blocker, no, they don't have their best 5 guys out there. But what he brings to the mental part of being a center, which is more valuable than I think most people realize.
I agree.
That part's really good and it's important, and
especially with 2 rookie tackles.
Yeah. So how do you gauge who your best 5 are with something like that?
Well, I think the obvious answer is the Seahawks have, and he's out there.
And I think that if you were looking at as far as just physical skills and blocking, your best 5 would be the 2 tackles, Lewis, Haynes, and Curran, as your best 5. And that would include no Gabe Jackson and no Austin Blythe. So, but 2 of those guys are getting a lot of snaps.
All right. Funny enough, I had it the same way that you had it. Interior run and pass blocking was my number 1 issue. And those players were my 2 players that I wanted to step up and play better from that situation. The other one I had was a consistent rushing attack. It kind of goes hand in hand with that issue. And with that, find a second option. Right now, it's all Ken Walker, all of it. Dallas has 13 attempts on the season for 65 yards. Homer has 7 attempts for 35 yards. And then before that, it was Penny, and then it was Walker. And nobody else is really contributing to that. And it's nice down the stretch to be able to have a 1-2 punch, not just depend on Walker the entire time. Injuries happen in the NFL. You can get banged up for, in the first half and not be able to return in the second half for some reason. And I have no faith at all in our run game if he's gone.
Yeah. If you're a defensive coordinator and you're planning for this and you see Ken Walker go off the field, just as part of the rotation, he just ripped off a big run. And now he goes off the field. And right now it's Travis Homer comes on.
Dial up a blitz.
They're gonna. Well,
I'm getting the Geno Smith.
Yeah, that's the thing is you know it's going to be a pass. If it's a run, who cares? He's not beating you. He's not housing a ball. You are expecting pass if Walker's not in there. If Walker's in there, it can be run, it can be pass. He's actually, pretty good out of the backfield.
Right.
He's a complete player. But as soon as he heads to the sideline, Geno Smith is throwing.
Or they're doing a jet sweep or some other weird contraption play or whatever.
Yeah. And so you know what's coming, right? It just makes it easier. They need either DJ Dallas to step up and be the guy that his college tape kind of suggested he could be, or I don't know.
It's funny, Keith.
A lot of options.
I wrote this down and I immediately went out and looked at the free agency market to see if I could scour up a veteran running back or some other running back that we could bring on, to the practice squad initially, and then see if we, it would help us at all. And there's just nothing out there. There's nothing out there. The only thing that was intriguing to me was the Abram Smith guy that had a great Senior Bowl this last year, was not drafted, ran around some practice squads for a while, is currently out there. We brought him in fact, for a workout a couple weeks ago, and we signed Godwin Igbuahi instead. And so that would be interesting. But yeah, there's no options, especially a run between the tackle option. Dallas is it. And for whatever reason, the team doesn't have faith in him to be able to do that job.
I mean, he's a special teams guy. He's got some, limitations as far as.
Do we need Dallas to step up then?
I would like to, but he's not being given opportunities right now. It's hard to step up when you're not on the field, because Travis Homer's the guy. He's the third down back. He's the guy, but when he comes in, he offers you very little as a running back.
Yeah. Homer's done a great job receiving the ball.
He's done a great job receiving the ball, and he's better than people think at pass blocking. His ability,
which is very important.
Yeah, it is. And he may not just completely stonewall a guy who blitzes up the middle, but he gets in the way. He reads it right. He makes the play, and he gives Geno Smith that extra second to get the ball out. And that's all you can ask. And I mean, that's the type of thing that matters, but he doesn't run the ball well. And if you don't run the ball well, the opposing team knows what's coming, and they change their play call. So yeah, I would love to see Dallas step up, be better, play better, get an opportunity to run 4 or 5 times a game just to spell Walker and actually be productive with that. But so far, it hasn't shown up, and it showed up in the preseason. It kind of a little bit here and there, but it just hasn't materialized. And once Homer came back from injury, he hasn't seen the field. So yeah, it's hard.
Another issue for me is the utilization of the third wide receiver option. Now, granted, we've had improved play from all of our tight ends this year. Utilization is up across the board, and I'd like to see that continue for sure. But I would like to see more Marquise Goodwin, and I would like to see the team figure out a way to get D. Eskridge in space and utilize his skill set, which we just have not seen at all, which is confounding to me, given the way that we looked at him on draft tape and so forth.
He's always hurt.
It's just crazy. He's got 7 receptions for 58 yards and 8.3 average, which is for him is not good at all. It's like, are they going to cut him next spring? Is my fear.
I mean,
so,
they
but
spent
Marquise
a second
Goodwin,
round pick. They put a second round pick on D. Eskridge, and they've gotten nothing from that investment. And especially, I mean, I know we keep coming back to the same point, but there was your starting center for the next decade sitting there, and you chose to go with D. Eskridge instead. And that has not turned out in any way. And he needs to step up and play. He needs to start making an impact. I love that Goodwin is doing that. He is getting involved. He is scoring touchdowns, but the team would greatly prefer that it was D. Eskridge doing those
long term. Absolutely.
He's much, much younger, much, much cheaper player. And honestly, he's got a ton of physical talent. He's just not doing anything with it right now.
All right. Player wise, just to step up a little bit, I actually put Noah Fant and Colby Parkinson. Now they're fine players and they're doing a great job. Noah Fant's 30 receptions, 306 yards, a touchdown. Colby Parkinson surprising this year, which is great. 13 receptions, 172 yards, 3 touchdowns. My point is, we're trying to be not just a good team. We're trying to be a great team. We're trying to get into the playoffs and maybe win a game or two once we get there. And if we do that, we need players like Noah Fant and Colby Parkinson to even take another level step. Noah Fant in particular, I would like to see Noah do more, have more opportunities, utilize his skill set.
Isn't he third on the team in receptions?
30 receptions.
Yeah, so I'm saying he's third overall.
He is third overall if you discount receivers out of the backfield. Let me see.
No, Lockett's got 54. Metcalf has 48. Noah Fant has 30. He's third on the team in receptions.
Correct. Right, but that doesn't exclude him from me wanting him to step up even more, because I think that he can. Here's a player that has had 75 receptions in a season before. He's on pace for less than 50, and I'd like to see that increase a little bit.
It's on pace for 50.
He's got 7 games left to catch 20 balls to be at 50.
Yeah. So you look at that. I mean, you and I both heaped praise on Will Disley yesterday, or on our last show, and that was for 26 receptions, 258 yards.
Yeah.
So
do you think the expectations were higher on Disley before the season or Noah Fant?
I think they were high on both of them, but probably more on Noah Fant. And Noah Fant, he's got more receptions and stuff. I think part of it is you look at the way the tight end receptions have been spread out. All 3 guys are in the top 6.
Yeah, which is great news, actually.
Yeah, and especially given that the Seahawks could not get a tight end involved with Russell Wilson. And now you got 3 guys in your top 6 in receptions. And so I would like to see all 3 of those guys, be better. But at the same time, I don't think any one of them is playing bad. They're all 3 been good. Colby Parkinson's
Noah Fant's really stepped up.
Yeah, Colby Parkinson's only got 13 receptions, but he gets the least playing time of the 3.
The cool thing about Parkinson, he's only been targeted 14 times. So he's got 13 receptions and 14 targets. He's making as much as he can out of everything he gets.
Yep. And Will Disley with 3 touchdowns, he's a guy that's just making plays. And I know that Noah Fant has more catches, but it just feels like when Disley is involved, good things are happening for Seattle's offense, because he's getting catches on third down that move the sticks and that kind of stuff. He's also the best blocker of the 3. I mean, and that matters for a tight end. It absolutely matters. It may not show up on a stat sheet, but if you're a tight end, half of your job is blocking. And Will Disley's the best blocker of the 3. So I like what I'm seeing from the tight end group overall. I think this is the best tight end group Seattle has had.
Period.
Ever. I was going to say that, and then I'm like,
certainly has a heck of a lot of potential.
I'm like, wait, do I want to go back through the list? And I'm like, actually, it is, because it's 3 deep. They've never been 3 deep.
And they just make plays. They got 2 big play receivers in this group that have an opportunity to really kind of extend the field. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, the last player on my list that I wanted to see step up, is actually Geno Smith.
How are you expecting him to play better?
I say that with a big caveat. I think Geno Smith's playing out of his mind. He's terrific in almost every aspect. Almost every aspect. The only thing that I could see him play better at, well, 2 things, is getting better in the red zone. Currently, they have only converted 15 of 31 red zone opportunities into touchdowns. That's a 48.4 percentage. That ranks
not good enough.
26th in the NFL. Their third down conversions could use some help as well, but they're way better than they have been in the last 3 or 4 years. So I'm going to give them a break on that. But Geno can get better in the red zone, converting to touchdowns. I'd like to see that. And then I'd really like to see the thing that we've talked about many, many, many times is to have him lead a game-winning situation. Maybe even a couple of them this last down the stretch. And I don't necessarily want the Seahawks to be in those situations, but when they are, and he has the opportunity, I want him to convert. I think that takes the team from being very competent to being a little extra. And teams fear teams that have quarterbacks that can lead a team at the end. And it just gives us that little X factor going into the playoffs that I think I'd like to see.
Yeah. I would like to see him get better in the red zone and on third down. But I have a hard time asking more of Geno Smith right now because he is doing.
He's the one player, though, I'm comfortable asking more of because I actually believe that he can give it to you. He's shown me enough this year.
He's already giving you so much.
He
has been the engine of that offense.
I'm getting greedy though now, Keith, because here we are. We're 6-4.
You're asking smelling for peak playoffs. Russell Wilson.
I'm smelling playoffs, and in a weak NFC conference, I think the Seahawks can actually take a couple of games. And so I'd like to see if we can win this division. I'd like to see if we can have a home game, and I want Geno to be able to do these things because it's those things that make the difference in the playoffs.
Yeah. I look around this NFC is weak. I mean, the Eagles are good, but they just lost. There's some weaknesses there that I think they may struggle down the stretch a little bit, but they're definitely making the playoffs. And the Vikings keep winning, but I don't understand how they keep winning. They just keep getting really lucky over and over again. And
they look beatable. Everyone looks beatable, including the Seahawks,
including the Seahawks too.
It just goes to show you though, at any given time.
Yeah.
Why not the Seahawks?
The Seahawks need to get into the playoffs. They need to win the division so they get a home game, and that helps too. And honestly, any team in the NFC could run and get into the Super Bowl. Not that any of these teams are great, but the NFC is just very weak. It's very accessible, even for a team like Seattle. If Geno plays better, or Geno just continues to play as he's doing, and the defense plays better, it's not out of the question. They're not going to be favored to do so at any point, but could you see them making a run that far? I don't see any reason why not to.
Yeah.
I mean, they've beat good teams.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I'm just, and we're nitpicking, obviously. I said that kind of upfront, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I think on the defense, we do have some legitimate opportunities to take another little step, and then have some players that can really kind of perform closer to our expectation level. Now on the offensive side, asking players like Noah Fant to play better and asking players like Austin Blythe to play better. Austin Blythe is baked. He's the player he is. He's very competent. I like the way that he does his line calls and the continuity that he provides, especially to those rookie tackles. So I'm not going to complain too much about the way the offensive line is playing overall, but I would like to have Ken Walker be able to have the best line possible so that he can have the best opportunities to be successful, and Geno can do what Geno does. Geno occasionally takes some bad sacks. Maybe that's another one I'd like to improve upon a little bit, but a couple of those things are offensive line oriented, and because Geno's a pocket guy, he likes to stay in there. He likes to step up, unlike another quarterback we used to have. And so you kind of want that little wall to form consistently around him.
He's a guy, he is more of a pocket guy. Now you've seen the games. He's plenty mobile. Mm-hmm. He's got some speed, but that's not who he is. He isn't a guy that's going to go pull the ball down and run over and over again in a game. He wants to be in the pocket, and that's who he is. It's who he naturally is. And for that to continue to happen, he needs the guys in front of him, the three interior guys, to be better. so that way he can continue to stay in the pocket, because the tackles have been good. So the 3 interior guys just need to do a little better at keeping guys from coming through right up the middle, and Gino's going to continue to excel and be great. So he just needs a little bit more help.
So I'm going to preview the December 15th game. The Seahawks are going to be 9-4, and the 49ers are going to be 9-4. And the 49ers are coming to the Seahawks on December 15th, both at 9-4. That's going to happen. And this game is going to be epic. And I want to win that game really bad. I'm just putting it out there right now, giving a little mojo. Seahawks face the Raiders at home. Seahawks are at the Rams, and then the Panthers at Seahawks before that game. I think we're winning all 3. I think we're 9-4. And the season, the division is on the line on December 15th. 49ers at Seahawks.
That would be fantastic. That just makes the entire season fun.
And it's on Thursday night Amazon Prime.
Yeah. Thursday night football. And honestly, so Thursday night games,
I hate that. I hate it. I hate the game. I hate the Thursday thing, but it's all alone. There's no competition for that game. Every single person in America that loves football is watching that game.
Yeah. And the other thing about Thursday games is there's not a lot of game planning because there isn't time to. You don't practice, you game plan some, you have a walkthrough, and that's it. And then you go out and play a game. And
Seahawks win that game, we're 10-4, Keith.
Yeah.
When we travel to the Kansas City Chiefs.
It favors the team that doesn't have to scheme themselves good. They just have the talent, have the players, do the same thing every week, and it matters. And with the 49ers are so dependent on Kyle Shanahan being
right.
Kyle Shanahan, because he's freaking amazing as a coach.
Right.
But they're so dependent on him. Now, when you don't give him time to game plan, you don't give him time to implement a specialized game plan for the opponent. Does it work as well? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I think on a Thursday game, it benefits Seattle. Yeah, it benefits Seattle more than it would San Francisco. That's not true for every team Seattle might have as a Thursday game, but just because the way the 49ers play, they are so dependent on Shanahan being awesome. And he is awesome. That's why the team's so good. But they're so dependent on his game plans, his scheming at week in, week out. And that is really hard to do for a Thursday night game.
As crazy as my awful predictions were at the beginning of the season, I predicted this as a win. Believe it or not.
Which is weird because, like, we knew the 49ers were going to be good.
Yeah. At
least mostly good. And we thought at the time that the Seattle was going to be bad. Yeah. And yet you still predicted as a win.
Yeah. Crazy. You know, this season is setting up really nice. So 5 of 7 are at home. The Raiders at the Rams, the Panthers at home, 49ers at home, travel to the Chiefs. And the last 2 games are at home, the Jets, the improved Jets, and then the Rams at Seahawks. Mm-hmm. There's nothing about that schedule other than that Chiefs game that really frightened me. Now that 49er game is going to be tough, and we played awful that first game, but that's the motivation right there. Yeah, that's all the team needs going, you know, for our 4th win in a row against the 49ers, who had come in with the same record for the division. And we got that Chiefs game behind that. And so but we'll have 10 days to get ready for that, though.
True. The Rams, man, they're in trouble. They don't have anybody. They don't have anything on offense right now. The running
nothing
game
to play for anymore in 3 wins.
Their running game's terrible. They just lost Cooper Kupp for at least 4 weeks. They're in trouble and nothing to play for anymore because they're not going anywhere. I could see that whole situation falling apart and then just tanking down the season. whether they are trying to or not.
And their draft picks are sucky, so they don't really have a great way to improve the team.
No, because they traded them all to Detroit.
Yeah.
For Stafford. So
yeah,
hopefully Detroit can draft a defense and look competent more next year.
All right, let's get out of here. Fun show. I think we solved everything, Keith. We fixed all the areas of concern.
Every last one of them.
All the Seahawks need to do is dial into the show, and they'll have it. They'll have all the answers. So
yeah, our answers were mostly certain players just need to be better, which is not a very good answer.
I do have to admit, this show is just as fun as the hardware show that we just did, because it's interesting to talk about things that need to improve in the way that you see it and so forth. It's interesting after 6-7 years of us doing this show, we see things a lot alike, and there's other ways where we don't completely align. I love those moments because I really do value your insight into a lot of those things, because sometimes you get myopically focused on a way that a certain thing is, and you don't realize that it affects things down there. No, I'm talking about myself.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me. I'm like,
no.
Yeah, what? I do that? Oh, wait. Yeah.
I was talking about myself in that I kind of focus on one thing or one player without really taking a look at how it affects the entire thing. So
yeah,
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Appreciate you. We've been doing this for 6 years, and what is it? 300 and some odd shows now. And there's a reason why we both keep 300. We're almost to 400.
This is 381 today.
God damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, we'll be at 400 before
the end
of the year. Yeah,
it won't take that long. Not at 3 shows a week. But yeah, we keep coming back for this because it is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. And I really enjoy doing the show with you.
Yeah, and we both thought it was going to be sucky this year, and we were just going to have to trudge through it and have something to look forward to in April. And surprise, we're sitting here relevant mid-November, November 15th.
I know.
And,
in first place.
Here we are.
In
first place and talking about a game in 4 weeks that is going to be unbelievably important, which is crazy. Just didn't even imagine. All right, let's get out of here. Find Keith on Twitter. Find me on Twitter. Find the show on Twitter. You can find it on Facebook. We've got an Instagram account as well. YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. So until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NWSeahawk. Keith is at Myers NFL. And the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.